first thing to know about Zorin 18, the new release of the Ubuntu-based distro, is that the panels have rounded corners, which, for anyone who has spent entirely too much time tweaking CSS to get rounded panel corners that never seem to be quite rounded, is reason enough to be excited about the new version. That most of the rest of Zorin 18 is as impressive is just more good news. There are some irritations related, not surprisingly, to its use of the GNOME desktop, but Zorin 18 is almost all anyone could ask for in a Linux distribution: sleek, good-looking, snappy, and straightforward. In this, the Zorin developers are betting big on luring Windows 10 users who don't want to waste hundreds of dollars on hardware upgrades to use Windows 11. As such, 18 Core, as it is called, is focused on making the transition as easy as possible, with similar theming and desktop layouts, as well as a unique approach to running Windows apps on Linux. How about a Linux installation walkthrough that uses a dedicated Windows app installer, based on wine and bottles, if they try to install an .exe file? Because, of course, that's what most Windows users will try to do. Sometimes, Zorin even offers suggestions for Linux apps that do the same thing, like LibreOffice in place of MS Office. Can 18 Core accomplish this feat of enticing Windows users? The early returns are good, with Zorin Group reporting more than 100,000 downloads in just over 2 days, making it the distro's biggest launch ever. And almost 3/4 of the downloads came from Windows users. But the long-term answer lies in convincing millions of other Windows users that their computing lives won't end if they leave Windows, which is less about how good 18 Core is and more about Microsoft's stranglehold on its customer psyche. But 18 Core is well-designed and intuitive enough so that it offers them a legitimate chance if they want it. A Zorin overview. Zorin has long been one of the best Linux distros, always graphically appealing and never hung up on being Linux-Y just for the sake of being Linux-Y. Yes, Fedora, we're talking about you. I've run the X Lite edition of Zorin off and on for years and have never been disappointed. But to be honest, I had my reservations before running 18 Core, the Zorin flagship. The X and Education spins are scheduled for new releases later this year. Most of my concern revolved around the GNOME desktop, which strikes me as a solution to a problem that never existed. Oh, ye of little faith. Yes, the GNOME desktop remains as annoying as a yard crew using its leaf blowers even after the leaves are gone, but 18 Core works around many of the aggravations. It's not seamless. Some of the GNOME extensions are as buggy as always, but most users coming from Windows won't know about extensions, let alone try to use them. The basic Zorin OS 18 Core setup, with a bottom panel and menu widget on the far left, just like Windows. Zorin 18 Core is a long-term release based on Ubuntu 24.04, supported until at least April 2029. The ISO download is 3.5 gigabytes, compared to 6.3 gigabytes for Ubuntu 24.04.3 and 3.0 gigabytes for Linux Mint 22.2 with the Cinnamon desktop, another popular Windows alternative. It's worth noting here that Zorin offers an 18 Core Pro version with a 7.6 gigabytes ISO for a one-time payment of $47.99. More on the Pro edition later. A VirtualBox test failed twice, once with Safe Graphics mode enabled. Each time it threw an error telling me to use a supported graphics device. However, this wasn't surprising, since Zorin's website documentation says it doesn't play well with virtual systems. Installation uses a Zorin-centric version of the new, standard Ubuntu installer, and there weren't any problems. I picked language, time zone, and the rest, overwrote my previous test distro, Mint X, and 10 minutes later I had 18 Core up and running. Interestingly, though my Wi-Fi settings were saved, the screen resolution wasn't, and I had to reset it to 1360 by 768. Setting up the desktop. Zorin 18 Core uses GNOME 46 with Wayland, which is probably why the VirtualBox session failed, and the 6.14 kernel. Most importantly, for Windows refugees, it comes with a Zorin Appearance app, which offers 4 ways to arrange the desktop. This includes not only 2 left-side Windows 11 lookalikes, but 2 GNOME-centric displays. The paid version offers 4 more, taking advantage of what seem to be built-in GNOME extensions, including Dash to Dock. The Appearance app also has settings for themes and effects, even offering a desktop cube. That's the good news. Unfortunately, when I moved the bottom panel to the top and tried to use Dash to Dock, it didn't act like a dock properly. Sometimes I got a dock and sometimes I didn't, and it never loaded on startup despite adding it to the startup settings, which seems to be another known Zorin bug. At one point, I got the bottom panel and the dock together, appearing on top of each other. The software setup, though, is much cleaner, even when allowing for the GNOME software app's inability to reliably update software, be it Deb, Snap, or Flatpak. The latter two are enabled, though no snaps seem to be installed out of the box. The Software Center descriptions note which is which, so while there are 3 Thunderbirds listed, you can tell which package format you're installing. The Windows software installer does sort of work. The catch is that the Windows software has to work under Wine and you need a legitimate .exe file. The former means only the best-known Windows apps stand a chance of installing. I tried a couple of lesser-known word processors without any luck. The latter means that an older .exe, say Outlook, probably won't work even if it installs, which happened to me either since Microsoft doesn't support it anymore, or there's something goofy with Wine, or just because it's a Windows application. In fact, testing the Windows installer was problematic, since I haven't used a Windows app in more than 15 years. Hence, I don't have a subscription to whatever Microsoft calls Office these days, as well as access to other popular Windows software, so I had difficulty finding current .exe files to try. 2 things do work almost flawlessly. First, the installer will tell you if there is a Linux version of the Windows app, like Firefox or Thunderbird, so you don't have to mess with the .exe file. Second, when you search in the left side menu for an app that isn't installed, like the VLC Media Player, the result links to the Software Center for installation, which saves a lot of aggravation and is much more effective than the way it works in Windows. What about the browser? This raises the question of Zorin's new default browser, Brave, which replaced Firefox. Since the distro's goal is to make Windows users feel comfortable, it seems like an odd choice, even allowing for the privacy concerns given for the change. In my experience, Brave works as well as the rest of the world's Chromium-based browsers, but it seems entirely too geeky for wooing Windows users, who will wonder where Chrome and Edge are in the App Store as flat packs, actually. Most of the rest of the software is standard for Linux distros with the GNOME desktop, LibreOffice, Files, AK Nautilus, Rhythobox for music, the Bracero CD Ripper, GNOME Camera, GNOME Videos, and the Evolution email client. Perhaps most impressive, Zorin Connect, the distro's reworked version of KD Connect, which allows users to link their phones and computers. It worked at first try, without any problems, just like apps are supposed to work, text message sent and accessed on the computer, sending files back and forth, and all the rest. Adding my printer worked on the first try too. No need to go through the Cubs website to find it, which I've had to do for almost every review for the past several years. In addition, I was able to connect to my local Nextcloud server using Zorin's online accounts wizard. I can't remember that working quite that well ever before, and I didn't need to install the Nextcloud desktop app. The link to the server was in File Shortcuts, just like any other folder. Finally, a word about the Pro version, which Zorin's developers let me use for this review. It installed in more or less in the same manner. The biggest differences are the extra desktop layouts, more installed software, and a left-hand side window close button. The first allowed me to use a top panel and bottom dock without any problems, while the third was irritating until a bit of searching sent me to the Zorin Appearances app, where I could move all the window buttons to the right. The paid version also comes with free installation support and free upgrades for the entire Zorin 18 lifecycle. The additional software in the Pro Edition is an interesting mix of the esoteric, the Blanket Ambient Sounds app, and the specialized, like the Handbrake Video Transcoder, the Darktable Digital Photo Editor, and the Apostrophe Markdown Editor. These are present as well as the usual suspects, like GIMP, Audacity, and Homebank. Most don't seem to be installed in the free version, though a menu search sends users to the software app, where they can be downloaded. Is all of this worth $47.99? Those of us who absolutely